Chapter 23-29, The Lunar Legion 1. This location lay near the moon's massive fissure. They could even see large chunks of lunar debris protruding from the central region, as if struck by some immense force, forming a towering mountain. Yet this peak seemed poised to break free from the moon and soar into space at any moment. Around this detached peak, vast quantities of shattered rock had already coalesced into a ring-like formation. The Dreamer still landed near the battlefield. Since neither force knew the identity of the arrivals, both sides paused their actions momentarily, cautiously assessing the approaching warship. On the ship's deck, Morana and the others were stunned by the lunar people's battlefield. Seems we've arrived at an inopportune moment. But since we're here, we must communicate with them. At least this saves us the trouble of searching. Yet Zhang Yi soon clutched his head in exasperation. But it seems they aren't exactly welcoming us. For around the warship, large numbers of soldiers from both armies had already surrounded them. Whoosh! 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 Hundreds of small spacecraft also encircled them, their lights flickering on and off, clearly weapons being readied. Go out and talk to them. The super warship, protected by its shield, wasn't afraid of conflict, but there was no need for it. Zhang Yi and the others emerged from the ship's cabin. Upon seeing the human forms, the faces of the moon people from both the black and white armies clearly showed confusion and astonishment. They had never seen such creatures before. Zhang Yi, clad in his demon god armor, approached the edge of the warship and addressed the Lunarians. We come from Earthstar with no hostile intent. We've arrived to investigate the moon's collapse. He amplified his voice through a loudspeaker, leveraging the moon's thin atmosphere to ensure both factions could hear him. Indeed, this world's moon possesses an atmosphere, otherwise, everyone would be deaf. He knew that since the Eastern Orthodox Church could communicate with the lunar people, this race possessed an extremely advanced civilization and had been observing everything on Earth's surface all along. Therefore, they should be able to understand human language. Sure enough, upon hearing Zhang Yi's words, the two generals of the Black Army and White Army exchanged a distant glance. In their eyes, something resembling tacit understanding seemed to appear. In the next instant, the Silver Cavalry and Black Flying Dragons moved in unison, issuing attack commands against Zhang Yi and his crew aboard the super warship. Powerful energy beams erupted from ship after ship. The two armies on the ground ceased their battle and instead launched a frenzied assault on the Dreamer's energy shield. This sudden turn of events caused many aboard the ship to tense up. What the hell is going on with these guys? Why are they attacking us? Brian exclaimed, his voice tinged with anger. The Dreamer's energy shield was exceptionally robust. The concentrated barrage struck its surface like raindrops hitting a lake. There was no immediate danger, but maintaining the defense consumed energy. Zhang Yi had no intention of sitting idly by waiting for the enemy to breach the defenses. Damn it! The lunar people were proving unexpectedly hostile, and Zhang Yi wasn't about to go down without a fight. His eyes flashed as he thought of those bastards from the Holy See, cursing them silently in his mind. Hadn't they agreed to give advance notice before coming? Had he been set up? Yet all three ships had landed around the same time, and they weren't far from here. If they were under attack, the people on those other two ships couldn't be faring much better. But now, to be thrust into battle without any explanation? It was downright infuriating. He pondered for a moment, then suddenly turned his gaze to Gao Changkong beside Emperor Indra. Gao Changkong, go find out why they're doing this. Gao Changkong's ability to simulate cycles allowed him to project the future behavioral patterns of specific individuals. Though these projections were merely the most plausible outcomes based on existing factors and might not necessarily come to pass, they were still perfectly suitable for deducing the motives behind the enemy's actions. Gao Changkong gave a light chuckle. All right. Stepping forward, a powerful surge of psychic energy erupted from his body, instantly reaching an ability index of 28,000 points. Even Zhang Yi couldn't help but feel a pang of admiration. To achieve such a level under Emperor Indra's suppression was truly remarkable. The only question was whether this cunning fellow was concealing his true strength. After all, he was the master of disguise. Stone blocks formed from runes materialized behind him, each engraved with ancient incantations symbolizing unique abilities. This was Gao Changkong's power, heavenly dancing treasure wheel. He activated the reincarnation theory, ability within meditation seal, locking onto the most conspicuous target within the arena, that black, bizarre flying dragon. A causality-like radiance flickered within his eyes as he swiftly calculated the entity's profile. The entire process unfolded in an instant, yet to Gao Changkong, it felt like an eternity. Coming to his senses, he scanned his surroundings with a trace of bewilderment. No wonder, time flew by. Each activation of this ability meant his spiritual world endured 100 days. Even after countless uses, he still couldn't fully adapt. Well? Anything? Gao Changkong sighed, his gaze heavy. They're performing a sacrifice. Using us as offerings. At that word, everyone's faces darkened. Sacrifice? They understood that perfectly well, it meant their lives. The exact reason. My intelligence is still incomplete, so the projected future remains hazy. But for now, let's focus on getting through this crisis. A cold smile curled at Zhang Yi's lips. Crisis? Sorry, but this is theirs. Attacked out of nowhere like this, did they really think Zhang Yi was easy to provoke? Zhang Yi addressed Lu Karen and the others, stay put here and keep control of the dreamer. The rest of you follow me out, we'll teach them a lesson they won't forget. With that, he exchanged a knowing glance with Morana and the others before charging out of the energy shield first. Morana and the others showed no fear. No matter how powerful the lunar people were, this time they had gathered over half of humanity's top-tier fighters. No way they'd be scared. Brian wore camouflage gear, a super combat suit custom-made for him by Professor Da Vinci. Though his claws weren't particularly long, paired with oversized sunglasses, he looked pretty cool. No choice, on the moon, the thin atmosphere meant intense light required protective measures. Come to think of it, if we left the lizard men here, they'd probably be toast in no time. Chapter 2330, The Lunar Legion 2. Let's party time. Brian lifted his sunglasses and leaped off the warship with a flash of cool, slamming his dog paw down onto the surface. Hordes of black and white warriors surged toward him, but before they reached him, Brian murmured, hypergravity. Centered on his hands, an invisible gravitational wave erupted from beneath the earth, radiating outward in all directions. Gravity within thousands of meters amplified 1,000-fold. The warriors, accustomed to the moon's low gravity, were suddenly yanked downward, their bodies slammed into the ground like flies caught in a swatter. Bang! 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 One after another, warriors from both armies were violently slammed into the ground, sinking deep into the earth. Countless soldiers were instantly flattened into pulp. These warriors possessed formidable strength, even ordinary soldiers boasted human race ability indexes exceeding 9,000 points. Yet before Brian, whose abilities index soared past 30,000 points, they were utterly insignificant. Brian coolly rose to his feet, lifting his sunglasses as he declared, "You're nowhere near my level." Morana, along with Emperor Indra, Saladin, and others, also made their appearances one after another. Only then did the black and white armies realize that these humans possessed far greater strength than they had ever imagined. Within both armies, a group of warriors who had reached the Epsilon tier began stepping forward to engage them in combat. Zhang Yi hovered midair. On this moon, where gravity was only 1/6 of Earth's, his body felt more relaxed and comfortable, as if he were a superhero. Then again, he was a superhero. Gazing down at the 100,000 troops below, he wasted no time. He opened a massive dimensional gate in the sky, completely enveloping them. Instantly, millions of gun barrels and cannon muzzles extended outward, their deafening roar echoing for hundreds of kilometers. Billions of bullets poured forth, their power amplified by Brian's gravitational field. These weapons were no longer ordinary firearms. They had been modified by the mechanical life forms from Lu Karen's armory, becoming far more formidable. They matched the caliber of the mechanical life form weapons used by the Tsanyuan tribe. Thus, an iron rain descended. The dense barrage instantly pierced countless soldiers, their deaths horrifically gruesome. The commanders of both armies who witnessed this could not tolerate it. Exchanging a glance, they reached the same decision. Roar! A beastly, deafening roar erupted from the Silver Centaur's mouth. His spiral lance pointed skyward. With a crack, it drew down a powerful bolt of thunder from the heavens. Aiming it at Zhang Yi, he unleashed it with a fierce release. A colossal thunder dragon, stretching kilometers long, roared and surged forward. The Black Army's black dragon swelled its belly, gathered power, then violently spat out a slender pillar of flame, attacking Zhang Yi from another direction. Zhang Yi stood between the two, a cold smile curling his lips. Upon descending, he had already witnessed their battle. According to the analysis of their energy overflow levels by the intelligence system, the Silver Centaur's ability index was 42,000 points, while the Black Dragon's was 42,300 points. Combined, these two posed no threat whatsoever to Zhang Yi, whose ability index had already reached 45,000 points. Since his debut, Zhang Yi had always been in a state where no one below his level could match him. After all, those weaker than him weren't even qualified to breach his defenses. Zhang Yi stood his ground, neither dodging nor retreating, simply holding his hands out horizontally as he faced both adversaries. A massive spherical barrier formed around his body. Two realms, absolute barrier. A barrier separating two worlds, utterly impenetrable. This was Zhang Yi's most primal and most powerful defensive ability. Boom! Two surges of violent energy poured into Zhang Yi's dimensional gate from opposite directions. The gate, like a bottomless pit, continuously devoured their energies without showing any sign of damage. The Silver-White Centaur and the Black Dragon stared in disbelief. Both were top-tier commanders in their respective realms, yet now they found themselves at a disadvantage against a weak human from Earth. Yes, they knew what humans were, but this was their first time witnessing one firsthand. Sixth-generation humans were incredibly weak. Before reaching their full potential, they were forced to face their end due to this world's upheaval. Yet in the vast tapestry of cosmic history, they were but an insignificant speck. Throughout Earth's 4.6 billion-year lifespan, though humanity was divided into 6 eras, this didn't mean each generation comprised only one species. Perhaps after this generation's extinction, another million years might see a primate chosen by the Creator evolve into a new human race. The Silver Centaur and Black Dragon had no time for reflection, for Zhang Yi had already assessed their combat prowess. The energy absorbed from his dimensional space was utterly insufficient to collapse space. A smirk touched Zhang Yi's lips. Is this the full extent of the lunar people's strength? Do you truly believe we Earthlings are pushovers? Now, I shall let you taste the full measure of your own power. Zhang Yi's hands abruptly crossed midair. All the absorbed attacks surged back along their original trajectories, streaking past his body toward their intended targets. As if Zhang Yi's space were merely a relay station, the Silver Centaur's assault now struck the Black Dragon, while the Black Dragon's attack slammed into the Silver Centaur. Before either could recover from Zhang Yi's earlier block, they faced fresh assaults. Caught off guard, they were struck directly. Boom! Boom! The Silver Centaur and Black Dragon were instantly hurled backward. On the ground, the human forces numbered only a few dozen, yet each was a top-tier expert from Earth. Morana, Emperor Indra, Brian, Saladin, each fighter was an army. The lunar forces also contained numerous Epsilon-level mutants. But Bishop-level mutants with ability indices exceeding 30,000 weren't exactly commonplace, they remained an extreme rarity within the lunar ranks. Though they held back somewhat in their maneuvers, the residual shockwaves from their techniques still crushed countless soldiers from both the Black and White armies. In an instant, the battlefield ran red with blood. Only then did the Silver Centaur and Black Dragon realize they had provoked the wrong foe. The strength of the Earth Star people far exceeded their wildest expectations. Yet neither showed the slightest retreat, charging toward Zhang Yi with undiminished valor. Judging by his power, they concluded he must be the leader of the Earth Star forces. Zhang Yi showed them no mercy. The divine refinement in his hands slowly transformed into a massive, blood-red demonic sword. The local races are utterly lacking in manners. They need a proper lesson. Chapter 2331, The Lunar Legion 3. Zhang Yi had no intention of holding back any longer. He saw clearly that the lunar people held no respect whatsoever for the Earth Star people. Gaining others' recognition didn't come from endless compromise, but from revealing one's sharp edge. People respected those who were capable and strong, yet looked down upon those with soft dispositions. With the demonic sword in hand, the void world behind Zhang Yi opened. That dark substance poured out like thick, flowing water, covering his armor and demonic sword. Zhang Yi raised the sword and swung it violently in all directions. Dark Realm Current. A substance dark enough to devour everything coalesced into a colossal dark storm, whirling and sweeping out in every direction. Feeling that terrifying force, both the Silver Centaur and the Black Dragon wore expressions of utter shock. This is the power of a demon god. Yet they had no time for astonishment. In an instant, the Black Tempest coalesced around Zhang Yi into a colossal star, still violently expanding as it engulfed everything in its path. Countless soldiers were caught within its grasp, not even uttering a sound before their very substance was instantly reduced to its most primordial state. The Silver Centaur and Black Dragon also faced the onslaught of the Dark Realm Current. They unleashed their power, thunder and flames roaring as they bombarded the colossal dark star from both flanks. Yet it was utterly futile. The disparity in power caused their supernatural energies to be directly devoured by the Dark Realm, its terrifying might crashing down upon their bodies. An intensely cold, dark sensation washed over them, even the warmth from their bodies being drained away. It felt like a dark swamp, threatening to devour everything within them. The two men were horrified, roaring as they unleashed their full supernatural power. Yet, they were ultimately swallowed whole by the darkness. In the blink of an eye, their gravely wounded bodies plummeted from the sky. Their battle suits lay in tatters, blood gushing from their bodies. Zhang Yi looked down coldly from above. Now, do you know your mistake? He hadn't killed these two solely because he still needed the lunar people to provide intelligence. Otherwise, given their initial attack on him, Zhang Yi would have already severed their heads by now. The Silver Centaur gasped for breath, staring at Zhang Yi. Are you an apostle of the demon god? He spoke in Huashu language, confirming Zhang Yi's suspicion. The lunar people possessed remarkably advanced technology. As a fourth-generation intelligent species, they certainly possessed the linguistic capabilities to master the language of the sixth generation they had observed for millions of years. What do you mean? Zhang Yi asked coldly. The Silver Centaur stared intently at Zhang Yi, sensing a power within him reminiscent of the demon god sealed within the moon. Yet, unlike the fallen apostles of the Dark Sun Forest, Zhang Yi carried none of their aura. Across the entire battlefield, Zhang Yi's suppression of both army commanders had granted the human forces an overwhelming advantage. Countless soldiers from both armies were being slaughtered. Watching this from the safety of the warship, Zhou Qir voiced her concern. This means we've already made enemies of the lunar people. What a terrible start. Originally, they had hoped to secure the lunar people's assistance in resolving the moon's collapse. Now, perhaps before resolving that trouble, they would first have to fight the lunar people. Yang Xinxin remained aboard the ship. Unless absolutely necessary, she disliked staining her hands with blood, though she took great pleasure in witnessing war and the earth drenched in blood. Demonstrating strength is the foundation for earning respect. This trouble isn't solely ours, I'm sure they're troubled by it themselves. Let's negotiate first. Yang Xinxin remarked coolly. Zhang Yi descended slowly from the sky. The battlefield had swiftly fallen under their control. Facing Zhang Yi, the commanders of both armies found themselves utterly powerless to resist. The chasm in strength was beyond their comprehension, and the power radiating from Zhang Yi left them both stunned and uneasy. Now, I need to ask you some questions. For instance, who are you, and why are you fighting here? Zhang Yi inquired calmly, his demonic sword pointing at the ground. Should these two fail to provide satisfactory answers, he wouldn't hesitate to deliver a few more sword cuts. The silver centaur clutched his wound as he slowly rose to his feet. You come from Earth? The sixth generation of Earth's inhabitants? I distinctly recall them being extremely weak, not even possessing the power of ether. Due to some peculiar whim of the Creator, each generation of the sixth generation humans possessed humanoid traits. Yet differences existed among them. For instance, the fifth generation was largely modeled after reptilian creatures, sporting scales and tails. The Dragon Clan, Lizard Folk, and Nash Kingdom all fit this description. The people of the Riverside Nation were an exception. They were rodents from the same era as the reptilian races, formed after being infused with fragments of the ether. The Winged Clan among the fourth generation Ecuadorian lineage, the Drucker of the third generation, and so on, all were what could be called humanoid. Yet, one could determine which generation they belonged to simply by their appearance. The lunar people had observed Earth for an extended period, so they witnessed the entire course of human development. 5 years ago, humanity was still a weak and pitiable race, devoid of awakened supernatural abilities and technologically backward. This is precisely why the Silver Centaur and Black Dragon were astonished by the super warship Zhang Yi displayed and his formidable power. Zhang Yi responded calmly, "Evolution is explosive, not gradual." At these words, the Silver Centaur and Black Dragon's eyes widened in shock. As if suddenly understanding something profound, they nodded in comprehension. Just as Zhang Yi was about to continue questioning, his powerful sixth sense suddenly detected a formidable force rapidly approaching from the right. Zhang Yi looked up to see dazzling silver light flickering on the horizon. A crescent-shaped spacecraft streaked toward them at incredible speed, hovering above the battlefield. The moment the ship appeared, the Silver Centaur's eyes lit up. He glanced at Zhang Yi and chuckled, "Anything you wish to discuss, you'd best address it to our guardian lord." Zhang Yi's gaze sharpened. He knew a lunar person of even greater stature than the Silver Centaur had arrived. The silver crescent-shaped vessel descended slowly. A beam of light shot from its central exit, landing on the ground. Within that glow, the form of a silver humanoid creature gradually materialized. A woman. An extraordinarily beautiful woman, so beautiful it seemed unreal. She resembled a cold, two-dimensional queen meticulously crafted by an artist, or the most expensive, life-size doll. Zhang Yi described her thus because her appearance and physique were flawless. Yet her beauty felt almost unreal, precisely because it was too perfect. Soon, however, Zhang Yi spotted several familiar faces. Behind her appeared the two figures from the Holy See once more, Father Orion, the priest of commandments, and mourning Sister Leibniz.